You can have this whole other experience of yourself that you've never had before. See if you can sense the peace where I come from, the peace that I have access to, and then you can access it yourself.
Yeah, I'm ready for it. Let's get weird.
Let's get connected.
Dance 2 hours.
Is this your first Bentinho event?
Yes, I immediately got hooked. I started listening to him every day.
It was an intelligence that amazed me.
The connection is something special there.
They're not really concepts that you can understand with the mind. When people have like a laughter or crying, it's because they're really feeling the energy that is in between the space of those words.
Things like this start with who will look for answers? People that are suffering.
The whole reason we even know about you guys is because the media trashed you, right?
Oh, yeah.
Why do you think they think you're a cult?
From my perspective, it's like, let's talk. Like, if I'm in a cult, like, I'll admit that I'm in a cult. Like, that's okay. Let's just talk. What is it exactly? Like, because this is adding a ton of value to my life.
We've arrived in the Netherlands. We're here for a sort of spiritual self-help retreat run by a 30-year-old self-styled guru, Bentinho Massaro. He's amassed a pretty big following online on his various platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Massaro claims to have first found spirituality at age 10 and went on to seek enlightenment in his teenage years, exploring different philosophies, teachers, and methods, until he reached the conclusion that these spiritual authorities were no more enlightened than himself. So he began his own teaching, and today encourages his followers to become enlightened and empowered through his Trinfinity Academy, with a goal of creating what he calls an enlightened civilization by the year 2035. He's gained a global audience who travel thousands of miles to attend his in-person retreats for as much as $2,000 a pop. Bentinho's social feed sells a lifestyle we all want: adventure, success, glamour, wellness.
Within our hearts, we already know who it is we want to be.
He touts himself as a spiritual leader for the next generation.
I love you.
But he's unlike other spiritual gurus.
Fuck your relationships. They mean nothing.
Set your standards a little higher. Feel a little bit more miserable about yourself when you're being fucking retarded.
And that's meant he hasn't been without his critics. He was recently based in Arizona, where he became mired in a scandal. A since-removed Medium article was published by a writer who attended one of his retreats, reporting what she described as cult-like practices, including promotion of fringe ideas, like joining forces with our alien counterparts, his purported telekinetic powers, and what she called normalized abuse. We decided to go see Bentinho in his homeland, the Netherlands. We've come here to dip a toe in his world firsthand, to see whether he and his followers are in fact onto something the rest of us are missing out on. Okay, so we're approaching the venue. It's a castle, and it's really nice. It's extremely pleasant here, I must say. So we're waiting at the gates of the venue where everyone's checking in. It's kind of a very relaxed, gradual check-in. People are coming in dribs and drabs. The thing doesn't kick off for a couple of hours, but it's a very chill vibe, you know. Everyone arriving is kind of fresh-faced and relaxed. Some people are carrying yoga mats. Everyone's super friendly, like smiling at us, like intense, glowing eyes. Why do you like Bentinho? What about it works for you?
When I start listening to him, for example, when I drive to work, my days are more in alignment and things just flow easily and crazy shit starts happening, basically.
To make sense of all the hype around Bentinho, I sought out his coordinator for the event, Adrian. Can you give any insight into sort of what's going to be taught this week or what we can expect?
Yeah, this is so hard. I mean...
It's okay, I'm sorry. Why is it hard?
because I've never actually had to explain it to someone before. So the title of the retreat is called Infinity and Absolute Abundance. So one of the main teachings that Bentinho has had for years now is the moving towards the highest understanding that we have of who God is, or of the Creator. And so infinity is a way of expressing that. Yeah, it's just a word, right? But we have to use words, and that's like sort of a good word.
Do you think that because the way that Bentinho teaches is so new and unique that there almost isn't a way yet to describe it?
One of the things that the people love so much about him is his ability to explain things in a way that people in modern times understand it, especially younger people, millennials.
In general, I was none the wiser as to what I could expect from the retreat. I couldn't seem to get a straight, concrete explanation from anyone I spoke with. Maybe it had to be experienced to be understood. Things are finally about to kick off. We're in the main hallway where the kind of action happens, and now we're just waiting for Bentinho. How are you? So good to... Oh, we hug. So you're having a meeting?
Mm-hmm. Just a little team vibing, you know?
And we're allowed to be there?
Yeah, for sure.
Can you give me any insight into, like, what I might hear, or what kind of themes or topics or anything, or is it a surprise?
Sure. Well, I will be laying out some of that tonight during the session, but right now I'll attend to this.
Yeah.
Because we also have to get...
Yeah, do your thing. We don't want to hold you up.
Sweet.
All right, thank you. I finally met Bentinho himself. He came in flanked by his security guards, but just came straight up to me and was extremely personable, just seemed like a normal dude, not like a big, meaningful spiritual leader who commands loads of attention and lots of followers. I'm yet to see him, like, do his thing, but he was perfectly pleasant.
You made it. Silence is very addictive, huh? Get immersed in it, starts to feel really good, expansive. So one of the most important things to make this whole life sustainable, especially when you start waking up, spiritually speaking, and you start seeing through the illusions of the matrix, both the matrix as well as the matrix, the grand illusion of form, of matter, of that which changes, that which comes and goes.
As Bentinho addressed the audience, I whipped out my phone and began frantically taking down as many notes as I could, because I was unfamiliar with much of the jargon and found him almost impossible to follow.
Enlightenment or self-realization is the path retracing those steps, those man-made steps, until one finds experientially, instinctively, intuitively, meditatively, the source of one's being, which is transpersonal.
Bentinho had spoken a lot of easy-to-claim New Age buzzwords that weren't in fact all that revolutionary, but it was the way he'd strung those words together that was confusing to me.
Those creatures that make up our body are second-density beings. They're creatures, cellular life forms. Try to find a rainbow and put it in a pot, you'll fail 9 out of 10 times. Does that make sense?
I have to say, a lot of it went over my head. I didn't find it that accessible, so to me, I have a few questions about that. I felt like I was back in math class. The numbers looked familiar, but the equations didn't make sense to me. What then was new here? And if nothing new, what were we paying for? So with that in mind, I decided to try to seek some clarity direct from the source, while his bodyguard drove us across the grounds. I can think of 500 people who would kill me for the chance to sit with you in a golf cart.
If we sit here, we can continue dialogue.
Yeah.
Who knows what
So how long have you had bodyguards? What's that like?
Actually, I generally only have had them in my Dutch retreats because they're usually bigger events, so I need a little bit more of a buffer. And also, you know, we've received some threats from people we don't know and that kind of stuff. It's, I'd say 60% that. It's 20% I really like this guy, and 20% just in case.
You said to me the other day when you were on stage, you had an idea of how you could possibly show me something practically to help me get some insight.
I don't know about the practical part, but when you become extremely present and clear-minded, your energy field, if you will, starts operating like a mirror.
Okay, I'm ready for it. Let's get weird.
Let's get connected.
Let's get connected.
When we are silent, we get to see ourselves, every bit of it. The more silent you become, the more you see. The more you move, the more you navigate, the more you create stuff, the less you tend to see. Don't make it about any of the concepts. They're just tools to drop you in. If you can be with silence, go deeper and deeper into the silence, the stillness of being, it will teach you everything you need to know.
Is what you teach, what you offer, is it almost like a form of therapy?
Well, over the years, I've developed, I guess you could say, different levels, because you're always working with individuals who are at a different stage of being comfortable with who they truly are versus thinking that they're something they're not. And you could say that the more beginning levels, in a way, deal with therapy, because people need to have that basic understanding that all is well, that it's okay to feel the discomfort. But beyond that, I mean, spirituality goes beyond therapy, for sure.
The world has already changed a lot in recent years. The digital era has made us more aware of our anxieties than ever, and we're losing faith in conventional solutions. So where do we turn when regular therapy and medication is losing our trust? And as more people are willing to pay for the wellness fix, it's people like Bentinho who can reap the benefits. Something as basic as shared silence, which need not carry a price tag, is being commodified in a way that can create barriers to simple and healthy practices. Practices like yoga, meditation, and if you're so inclined, ecstatic dance.
Ecstatic dance is an amazing dancing experience. And for that we have 3 basic ingredients. There's no shoes, there's no booze, and there's no talking. Which means we will dance 2 hours.
Call me a bad sport, but sober, euphoric techno discos are not really my scene. It's just not how I choose to let off steam or express my true self. After an hour, I was ready to call it a night. I'm still trying. I'm still wide open, you know, trying to understand what this is all about. Today, you know, I listened to more of Bentinho's talk. I grasped bits, little bits, but I still don't find it very accessible, which is disappointing. But generally positive vibes, and tomorrow's another day. So we're on our way to breakfast, which every day is silent. So that's gonna be pretty nice, I hope. Probably not that practical if you have kids or whatever, but I'm looking forward to it. While I can appreciate the value of a bit of quiet me time, I was having trouble figuring out what, apart from his lectures, sets this apart from the plethora of meditative practices available to us anywhere in the world. Is this just a new take on a not-so-new thing? So there's a water fight happening to my right and a volleyball game to my left. Wow, what fun. It looks so fun, right? Do you play this every day?
No.
Whose idea was it?
Some other volunteers.
So
They just said, let's fill some water balloons, and then we ran out there.
it's like being a kid again.
Yes, right.
Right? One of the things that you do or have done is say people have to be okay with feeling uncomfortable and being offended, right?
Oh, in general, in life, yeah. I
Yeah.
think that's a good thing to develop.
Right, and yet you're saying this in 2018 when it seems like the next generation of young people, it's all, easily offended. Have you thought about that?
Definitely, and I run into that quite a bit because I am irreverent in my work. When appropriate or when I think like it gets the message across. My point of view on it is that everyone should throw their points of view away. Ultimately, I understand this is a lot to ask of people, but throw your points of view away as much as you can.
The reason people often go on a spiritual journey is because they've experienced some suffering. So when you're automatically catering to a group of people who are, in theory, more vulnerable, that's a lot of responsibility for you.
It's one of the reasons why I'm shifting out of the bigger retreats. There are people that are vulnerable that come into the retreats. Not all of them can be recognized or filtered out. I do experience greater peace of mind when there's 20 people.
Yeah.
And I can talk to each one of them, and I can be accountable for each one of them. Being at an event of 500 people of all different backgrounds, there's just technically there's no way that I could talk to all of them. And so I do feel slightly vulnerable as a teacher giving those bigger events. There's a sense of vulnerability there. The scientific community is far from scientific, in my opinion. I'm scientific, but that's my opinion. And again, none of this is new. The Buddha talked about this, Jesus, in more convoluted terms, talked about this. And many teachers have spoken about this all over the world, in all ages of humanity.
One day I was actually just kind of in my room, sitting there, and I just had this really strong urge to type in universe into YouTube. So I did. And Bentinho's Parallel Realities video came up, and I clicked on it, and I couldn't understand a word he was saying. I had no spiritual context.
That makes me feel better.
Yeah, I had no spiritual context, but I just had a feeling to just go deeper, just keep going.
Was this something you were like doing on your own, or is it like you had a couple of friends who were also, because...
No, it was just me. Yeah, it was a very, very strong desire to, because I knew, I was like, there must be a formula for happiness. We're supposed to be happy, so what is this?
What is the guy like at home? Give us some insight.
So, yeah, you know, we like to go to the movies.
Do you guys have like a favorite movie, TV show or something that you're like super into, or?
No, but we do quite a bit of superhero movies.
Yeah?
Yeah. You know, it's fun to immerse ourselves in that and experience how there's soft disclosure happening of things within the government, technologies perhaps that are not being shared with everyone, but they will share them in these amazing movies and plant the ideas in people's heads.
So you think there are predictions happening in these like superhero movies?
Well, not predictions, but I'm saying that you can see subtle hinting to a more magical type of existence.
Should we move with this? We could sit under it.
Did you know you can stop the rain?
What?
Try it.
How?
It's intended. It's not apart from your consciousness.
Should we both try and stop the rain?
Let's do it.
Okay. What am I'm gonna just think.
Just visualize a clear sky, for example, and the absence of
Can
it.
I close my eyes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Be absolutely confident
that it has stopped raining in that reality.
I think I'm a bit rusty. Despite our combined efforts, the rain prevailed.
Not bad, not bad.
It's trying to stop. Okay. 2035 is your stated goal on your website for upgraded civilization. Why 2035?
That's my estimation of when we will have changed so much in all of our levels of our society that one could look back from that point onwards approximately and say we were a changed civilization by then and there was no going back.
Are you okay with the fact that an awful lot of people are going to be less inclined to listen to what you have to say because you talk about extraterrestrial stuff?
Yeah, it's a balance because there's a lot of people that come to my work through that avenue as well. So if I don't also help normalize that concept, then I'm leaving a portion of my job. And I don't feel afraid of it because I'm so confident that this will become clear, that even if people ridicule it now, which is totally fine, then they will see later on. Once
someone in the media has labeled you a cult, it's really hard to ditch that label. How do you feel about being called a cult?
We are a cult. We are a curious, understanding, loving tribe.
I mean, in terms of the definition of cult as something problematic.
I've never experienced cults. So after some of those other people painting that picture, I started doing a little bit more research, just learning about it. Like, why is this such a big deal to people? Why do they label it a cult so quickly? What do they even mean? When they label it a cult, it's because they haven't really experienced the benefits. They see it from the outside in, and it reminds them of things that they fear or are taught to fear. So yeah, I don't know how to answer that question.
If you grow, you're going to have more and more fingers pointing at you, being like, this is elitist and, you know, it's exclusive. Is there a way that you can make it more accessible for more people?
The whole idea is how to make it more accessible from the ground up. So the first 3 years of teaching, I did everything for free, completely donation-based. Then it was like, okay, if I want to make a big difference, then I need to have more means available to me to make that difference. People very quickly judge a high-price ticket, but they don't understand, A, the cost involved, the cost of maintenance of a team, of people, of this message, and the energy required to output so much service to others.
No, not really original. I'm living for
This is nice.
Yeah.
But you brought up a good point, which is people perceive that they can't do it. Right? They're in a state where I'm in the office, I only have so much money to spend, I can't even go on vacation, I don't have the money to do this. And that's one of the most tugging things on my heart, so to speak. It's like, okay, how can we address that? That's exactly what we teach, is how to vibrationally upgrade your consciousness and your understanding and how you apply yourself to life to where you can attract those resources to do what you want to do. And you're not stuck, it is by choice that you're in that job. It's by choice that you have the life you have. And knowing that, and doing some of the work, you can change it.
At a moment in human history where things feel more dysfunctional than ever, it can be tempting to want to throw the whole world away and start over. The like-minded spiritual seekers I met here seem to thrive off the more obscure, intangible elements of Bentinho's teachings. With reality such a disappointment, the further away from it Bentinho goes, they seem ready to follow and pay for. But beyond the obvious benefits of a wellness retreat, are Bentinho's followers leaving with anything more than what they arrived with? Is this a wellness cure-all, or a simple band-aid for a deeper issue that only serves to make reality a harder pill to swallow? With many of us still coveting the type of lifestyle seen on Bentinho's Instagram, I can understand the appeal of looking further and deeper for answers. But how far should we go? A largely white, well-to-do community that considers itself upgraded, a better version of the rest of us? While this all looks to me to be philosophical jargon dressed up for a millennial audience, there's no question that the people who attend these retreats say Bentinho is helping. They just fail to say exactly how or why. When I get back home and my friends ask me where I've just been, I'm going to struggle to find my words.